Continuing on, my favorite things about living in Roatan, Honduras that did not start off being my favorite things, but as I have grown older and wiser, let's just focus on the wiser part, I've learned to embrace. And the other thing is, when living in the United States, and I'm just comparing what I know, being born and raised in the United States, choosing to live in Roatan, Honduras on and off since 2009, is we get to, in the United States, we become so instant gratification and one click. And I know when I order food, or I don't even go out to grab takeout, I have things ordered to my door. I heaven forbid someone ring my doorbell and I answer it. That just gives me anxiety thinking about it right now. It's like, no, put it at the door. Even when I'm staying at a hotel, I'm like, Uber Eats, put it at the entry or at the reception, or put it at my door. Do not even knock, just leave me a text. I've gotten so impersonal with so many things in not living in Roatan in the United States. And what's nice about coming back to Roatan, Honduras, or living in Roatan, Honduras, and maybe this is the small town feel, is we don't have the option to be, the efficiencies that we see in the United States, I feel that also kind of pull us out of being human. Not that we're not human, but we're behind a keyboard, we're behind text message, we're behind the scenes so much, especially since COVID, that I know I have the tendency to forget and how to empathize. And when you see the rhetoric we see on the news, especially coming from the United States, what I really love about Roatan, Honduras is, one, we have more news sources than coming from the United States, so we get more of a global view. There's still very much a large influence from the United States, and we get all of the rhetoric that does come from the United States. And I am referring it to media, just what gets hits and what gets reviews and what gets the audience are those extremist opinions, which I feel like when you see those, it kind of dehumanizes us as well. I feel like that. And what's nice about Roatan, Honduras is you can't kind of hang out behind a keyboard. You have to get out, which is really, I don't know, very easy for me, or even sitting talking to you all from a video screen where I'm just looking back at myself. That's pretty darn easy. But when I have to go out, and it's just, I've forgotten whenever I go to the United States for an extended period of time how easy it is to do that and just kind of forget about empathy and things of that nature. And while it is harder to always, there's a bunch of people that you're around that you don't necessarily agree with, but it is nice that instead of being all of those extreme versions where we all have opinions that are probably extreme, or that, they're not the same as someone else that we know. But in Roatan, it is such a small, close-knit community. All of our extremes and all of our differences, they're not highlighted every day on the news like we see in the United States, which kind of alienates us in a way. Down here is we don't have really the option for delivery and apps where we don't have to talk to people. We can get in a cab without talking to people. We have to talk to people. We have to interact. We have to go out into society. We have to do those things, or I have to drop off my kids and I have to say hi to everybody at school every day. Like, I have to do this. And well, as a realtor, I will meet you in person, not just behind the keyboard or a text. And working in like the dive industry and like working in that, we have to get out. And I know it's very easy for me to like stand behind things, and in Roatan, I just don't really have that option. And what is nice, as we get older and wiser, we can see we have a better vantage point, and we have that empathy again, and we can kind of humanize ourselves, which after COVID, I feel like has kind of, some days are better than others, but Roatan, you don't get into that. And so I feel like it creates a better sense of community here, just because we don't have all of those electronic or all of those options that you have in the United States. Like, we have to go, I can order a TV, but it can't be delivered to my house within, 12 hours. Or if I want avocados, I've got to move, I've got to go to a veggie stand. I just can't have them on Amazon and have them delivered to my door in 2 hours. So it kind of forces us to interact with people, and that interaction is good, as much as I find it sometimes uncomfortable, especially when I come from the United States. I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm gonna have to talk to people. And that's what I'm getting my children to do, who are 8 and 10, or almost 8 and 10, and it kind of forces the forces us to interact with each other again and find kind of common features, and not just focus on maybe one extreme opinion or an opinion that's polar opposite of what we have. Is we get to focus on being a community and building it stronger. And it's one of those nice things. And not saying that we don't do that in the United States. I'm just saying it's nice being forced out of my comfort zone, or forced out and to learn about people from different cultures, different mindsets, different tax brackets, different opinions of the world. And Roatan is a really eclectic group of individuals. There's a population of around 130,000, 15,000 of which have immigrated to Roatan. So we have that are documented. So we have we have a 10-15% of our population is of immigrant status, which is a fairly high percentage. And what's nice is when we all work together, nothing's perfect, but it is nice that you do get a different vantage point, and you do get to see a different perspective many times that is someone that's actually living it versus seeing something on the media, which I know it can be a little bit different than real life. And living in Roatan, I know since COVID, it's helped. I think I've become a better, more well-rounded person, and it's good to embrace that, and not always knowing the correct answer, or not always knowing an answer, and having to then figure it out. And I can't just Google it. You can't just search it online. You have to go out and interact with people. And it forces me out of my comfort zone, and it did take me a long time to get comfortable with it. But living in Roatan, embracing having to be, physically present, is another thing that I think is incredibly important, especially as being a parent. And my kids go out and they skin their knees, they get in the dirt, they do kid stuff. They have an imagination play, and they're playing just really cool games. And who wouldn't like getting to a bonfire near the ocean and just living the vacation life that so many people get to live, and then we get to live it full time. So that's my older and wiser content for today, and trying to put a positive spin on the rhetoric that we see from the US, which is just, I find it very stressful. And I do embrace the island time, even though it's not instant gratification, and having to force myself out and be, live in real life instead of just behind the computer screen, which is so easy for us to do in other places.